Hi, I'm Miles Brandman, and today I'm in Seattle. See? Space Needle. Now, the reason I'm in Seattle is because of this. It's the Cadillac XT4. It's an all-new vehicle for them on an all-new platform with an all-new engine competing in a segment they've never competed in before. It's the subcompact premium SUV segment. So this vehicle is going to slot under the XT5, which makes sense because XT4 smaller than XT5 nomenclature. Anyway, so let's go look at it and decide whether Cadillac's going to be successful or not. Okay? And there she blows. I'm not really sure why I'm using C terms. I've never actually said that in my life. Let's blame it on the fact that I'm close to the water. Anyway, the 2019 Cadillac XT4 comes in a few different trims. What you're looking at here is the Sport version. Now, Sport comes off of the base, what Cadillac calls luxury model, and you can go one of two directions. You can go in the Sport direction, as this one is equipped, or you can go in the premium luxury direction. And as I'm walking around the vehicle, I will try to point out the things that are specific to the Sport model that are going to be different on the premium luxury model. But because I don't have that vehicle to just show you, you're just going to have to use your little keyboard fingers to look up the premium luxury version. But anyway, let's start here at the front. And I want to start with the XT4's light signatures, the headlight and taillight signatures, because I think they're some of the coolest elements on this vehicle. So, like a lot of recent Cadillac models, this has a vertically oriented LED headlight setup. It's a daytime running light that it really is distinctive to a Cadillac vehicle. And on this one, though, they did something a little different to give it just a bit of distinction from the other models. That is this upturned brow that extends back a little bit and then reconnects and comes down the vehicle. And it just gives it a little bit of personality at the front. And I'll step away so you can see that. Gives a little personality at the front that you're not going to see on other Cadillac models. And now I'll walk over to the taillights so you can see those. These are even cooler. Now, it is daylight, so it's harder to see, but you can see the L shape that is both a combination of kind of what the Escalade has going on with its big light towers and some more traditional LED taillights that come horizontally. And these remind me a little of the Volvo XC40s, but they're sharper, they're more interesting to me. And when you get close, you can see further details that they just make the vehicle stand out a bit. This Cadillac insignia is actually etched in glass onto the taillights, and there's further etchings on the side here, these little slats that run down the whole beam. It's just these really cool details that frankly you don't really expect from a GM product, even on the upper end in the Cadillac realm. And these inner blocks are they function as the brake lights and the turn signals. So when the car is turning, these will illuminate inside of the regular LED beam. And the reason they didn't connect the two is because, well, they weren't allowed to. The governmental regulations said that because the beams are so thin here, it can't function both as the tail light and as the turn signal. And that's just specific to the US. If you're in Europe, if Cadillac was to sell this vehicle in Europe, they could get away with that. And in fact, they may be able to get away with that in China, in that market, which is now their best market. All right, so speaking of other details of the vehicle, I'll go back to the front because I want to point out this black mesh grille, which we've seen on other Cadillac models. I think it looks really good here. And this is the Sport version of this grille. On the luxury model, they're like these chrome element platinum looking blocks that make up the grille. I prefer the Sport's black accents, the piano black surfacing on the lower bumper there. There is a lot of black cladding that I'm not sure how I feel about that, but the black elements work on these louvers here and the frame rails there. These are optional 20-inch wheels, and they have a machined finish to them. I think they look really good, personally. The base 18-inch wheels that come on the models, I don't think are all that good. Sorry about the honk right there. Let's talk about silhouette for a second, because I don't actually think the silhouette is all that distinctive. It kind of just looks like any other crossover vehicle. I don't think it looks particularly Cadillac-esque. There's only one element to the silhouette that stands out, and that's this notch back here that reminds me of the original SRX crossover, not the XT5 that replaced it, but that kind of notch back there was kind of introduced on the SRX and is sort of brought back here. That's one thing I'm kind of digging about it. The rest of the silhouette, it could be anything, frankly. The rear view, I like or dislike, frankly, depending on the trim and color of the vehicle. This red color, I'm not super big of a fan of it because there's a really hard line here between the black plastic cladding and the body color of the vehicle. Now on the sport model, you do have body color matching door handles and mirrors, which I prefer, but the fact that there's all this big piece of black cladding back here, I don't dig. I like the piano black texture here, but it's too many different tiers of colors, and then it goes back to black cladding there. You see what I mean? It's just a lot going on, and chrome sort of trapezoidal tailpipes, and it's just a lot going on. So if you got a darker color for the vehicle with the sport package, it would all look a little more cohesive. Or, and here's what I like about the luxury trim, this that's piano black here is in a platinum hue, and it just looks way better, frankly. It works with the light signatures better, and it works with lighter or darker color vehicles. So that's actually the only element of the luxury trim that I prefer over the sport, because I like the sport's wheels better. I like the piano black accents around the vehicle better. It's just that one detail on the back doesn't work as well for me. One other detail I do like is that on a lot of cars, the character line that runs along the vehicle stops here at the C-pillar, but on this car, it runs all the way down and then connects with the taillights here. It's just subtle, but it kind of draws the eye, and especially in the proper lighting, it's kind of a neat detail. Now, first I'm going to talk about price, because you need to know that going into this segment, because it's a very competitive segment. There's the Mercedes-Benz GLA, the BMW X1, the Audi Q3, the Volvo XC40, and this vehicle, because of its size, is actually somewhere in between the subcompact and the compact segment. So it's almost stepping on the toes of the Acura RDX and the Infiniti QX50, and indeed, because of the price point, many shoppers may find themselves looking at either a compact vehicle in the entry-level premium segment, or looking at this kind of subcompact that has a bit more space, but is not full-on compact vehicle. So pricing, $35,790 is the starting figure on the XT4, and that is again for the base / luxury, what Cadillac calls luxury model. You can go up from there to the sport or the premium luxury. Both go for $40,290, and they come with a few other upgrades, aesthetic, as I've pointed out, and then some content that comes with those packages. You can then add on from there convenience packages and technology packages and all the other goodies that come with a vehicle. And if you really go hog wild, which frankly it's kind of easy to do for the content that you're looking for, you can end up at like $56,000 as this one is equipped. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a BMW. That's a lot of money for a Cadillac for sure. So you'd have to be careful when you are shopping around for this vehicle, because the options list and the trim selections can get kind of hairy. So let's take a peek at the trunk space. Not crazy impressed with this, and I think it's because they pushed a few things back so that you could have more rear legroom, which this does have excellent rear legroom, but the trunk space isn't that great. Of course, you can remove this cargo cover and you have more vertical room, but the depth isn't excellent, and you know, a lot of car companies have done a good job of creating space under this false floor, but apart from a couple tiny bins, there isn't really all that much space down here, and the load floor height is pretty high. You don't come over this ridge here and then it drops down and you have more space. No, it's kind of at the same level as these kick plates here, and that just makes the trunk area seem extra shallow. You also have very shallow kind of cubby holes here, so sometimes vehicles in this segment have little cutouts that you can store other stuff in there, but there really isn't much here. So it really lives up to the subcompact category here, but the legroom is quite good. So this is my seating position. I'm 6 feet tall, and when I climb back here, you can see that I have plenty of extra legroom. I also have a long torso, and flip this around for a sec so you can see. Pretty decent headroom. This one has the panoramic sunroof, which I could not tell, frankly, from the spec sheet whether that is standard or optional. I'm figuring it's standard on either the Sport or the Premium Luxury, which again are like parallel trims. Back here, this one has optional outboard heated seats. This is standard, the USB port and a micro USB-C port. That's great. But again, really just kind of impressed with the legroom back here. I do kind of wish there was a bit more headroom for taller individuals, taller torsoed at least individuals. And the thing that really kind of bothers me about this back seat is the fact that there is no adjustability for the backrests. So on many cars, you can adjust the tilt of the back seat rest, but on this one, that's it. You got this kind of vertical orientation, so you're sitting upright, and if you want to relax, you got to kind of lay down, I guess. That's the only way you can relax. Let's look at the front cockpit. Not too shabby. These are upgraded leather seats over the standard ones, because on the Sport model there's sort of a leatherette, but this is genuine leather on this one, and the Premium Luxury also comes with genuine leather. Now, the trim pieces on the XT4 are good and bad. Everything above the driver's belt line, I would say, let's call it this part right here, is fairly high quality and feels like the premium vehicle to match the segment. Everything below the belt line is some really cheap stuff. Distractingly cheap stuff. Now, I will say that if you're seeing some misaligned panels and stuff, this is a pre-production model. Hopefully the production models will have everything tight and lined up perfectly, but this pre-production model, I'm going to give them a little bit of grace in that regard, but the quality of the panels are not going to change between now and when the vehicle goes on sale, which is like right about now, end of September, early October. The Sport model has this carbon fiber-esque, I don't really think it's carbon fiber weave, it's carbon fiber style trim pieces here. On the Premium Luxury, that is glossed wood, not open pore wood as we've seen in some other vehicles, but a glossed wood, which I don't think is quite as nice. There is this nice brushed material to the handle, the door panel insert, and the handle itself. And then yeah, you can really just see this hard line between soft touch materials and hard plastic. Stepping inside the cabin, we can see a few different things. So the standard car comes with a 4-inch driver display. This one has the upgraded 8-inch, and I mean, whether it makes that big of a difference or not is up to you, but you can see things a little easier, slotting between the telemetry data, the navigation info, your multimedia, that kind of stuff. Analog gauges are the only way this thing comes, so it doesn't matter how high you option it up, you're going to get analog gauges. This one has the optional head-up display, which you can see just there. And when you're in motion, it shows the tachometer, projects that up there, which is kind of cool. I dig that. The steering wheel itself is really nice. Big fan of that. It's thick. It kind of feels like they pulled it straight out of the CTS V Sport. It's a good thickness, perforation on the center inserts, and you've got a lot of controls here for your adaptive cruise control, which this one has. It's an option. It doesn't come standard. Blind spot monitoring does come standard. Front and rear parking assist is also standard. But you can adjust your following distance here, set your cruise control. Over here is kind of where you're controlling this display up here. and then you're going to look at a slew of buttons over here. This new Cadillac user experience, or Q for short, infotainment system is, and I'm shocked to say this, frankly, one of the best I've experienced in the whole auto industry right now. And granted, the vehicle is brand new, so they've got the latest and greatest stuff in here, but it is so responsive, and I love the layout. Everything makes sense. I'm just a big fan of how this thing operates. I don't get the giant home button way up here on right next to the screen where there's a touch home button right there. It doesn't really make sense when all the other controls are down here, and that's frankly where your hand lies down here. It would make sense to put it down here, but they don't. So instead, you've got your touch controls here. You want to go to the nav screen. This is the stuff that impresses me. Look how fast that is. And I mean, those of you who may not spend as much time in vehicles as I do may not be as impressed, but it's so responsive, and the visuals are excellent too. I don't know. I'm blown away. Cadillac, you did a great job with that, especially considering how bad, frankly, Q's system used to be. Here are a couple things I'm not a huge fan of. The painted on blue and red right here for your climate controls. Like, I get it. Red up in temperature, hot, blue down, cooler, but it looks tacky when they're painted on like that. These are illuminated. They become not illuminated when you turn the system off, but they're not painted on like the climate controls. This one has the optional heated and cooled seats, part of a package. More USB and USB-C ports down there. You can put your phone in here. It does fit. But there's not like a defined slot for your phone, which I kind of like usually on other vehicles. This gear selector, I don't know whose hand this was modeled after, but the dude or dudette must have had quite the palm, because I have a large size hand, and even grasping this thing, it's odd. So I'm not really sure what Cadillac was doing there. This is new. They've added a scroll wheel to kind of function like BMW iDrive. They would never tell you that's what they were doing, but that's kind of what they're doing. You've got more controls down here. The quality of the plastics and the flatness of the surface, it doesn't have any dimensionality whatsoever. That's not impressive. So there's that. But you got a couple of cup holders here. Open up the cubby. This you can remove. And you've got a pretty deep space, although narrow, for some stuff to fit in there. Oh, look at that. Okay, so there is like a smartphone slot in here, but there's not one there. So look at that. I just corrected myself on camera. There is a smartphone slot in the Cadillac XT4. Ignore 12 seconds ago when I said there wasn't. Here is a look at the rest of the interior layout. The surface here, which you can't see, but I can and feel it, is, or you can't tell, it's pretty rough. It's not as nice as other surfaces that you're seeing in BMWs and Mercedes-Benz products. The rest of the cabin layout, the panoramic roof helps, is quite nice. And again, everything above this belt line, everything above this line right here, effectively, is good. But below that, not so good. I also am not sure how I feel about how many buttons there are right here. I know we're kind of moving towards, in general, a touchscreen oriented lifestyle, and some automakers in response to that are saying, well, but buttons help. Yeah, just integrate it a little better than this. This is just a little cluttery. There's the Bose premium sound system in this vehicle, and it's good. I tested it out. Visibility is good. There's always going to be a sort of blind spot in that C-pillar there, but it's not that bad in this vehicle. I can't talk about my driving impressions. I'm not allowed to talk about that at all, though I would like to. There's a little embargo that I have to honor, which is for a few more days. So I might make another video of just my driving impressions, but for now we're just going to kind of have to tune those out. Just don't think about them. This is the engine that we're working with. It is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's the only engine available in this model. It makes 237 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. They don't say 0 to 60 times. and I can't tell you my driving impressions, but they say the engine is 15% more responsive than their old 2-liter turbo that was in the Cadillac ATS. So you do the math, it's going to be an engine that's got some performance. Anyway, this is connected to a front-wheel drive system as standard, but you can have the all-wheel drive system for $2,500 more. That's the way I would go, because it has a dual-clutch all-wheel drive system that can completely disconnect from the rear axle so that it operates just in front-wheel drive mode to save fuel economy. And Cadillac says the front-wheel drive version is going to get 25 mpg city, 30 highway. That's pretty darn good. And the all-wheel drive version, because you're going to be able to decouple the front and rear axles and effectively send 100% of the available power and torque to either axle, it should get pretty similar fuel economy. We were seeing 26 mpg on average, and this is the all-wheel drive version. So there's that. That's connected to a 9-speed automatic transmission, the new gearbox for Caddy, and that's part of the reason why the fuel economy numbers are so good. The gearbox it's a good system connected to a good powertrain and a smart drivetrain. I think that about does it for the Cadillac XT4. I'll give you another few looks at the thing. Once again, $35,790 to start. You can then go in sort of a Y configuration. To the left, there is the premium luxury version, which has some aesthetic and content differences from the right way of going, both, in my opinion, correct and directionally to the right. The sport model, as we have here, both this and the premium luxury are $40,290. From there, there's a bunch of packages and a bunch of other options, and you can get into some trouble to the tune of $56,000. Not the tune I would like to sing. There you go.